My mother looked me dead in the eye at the funeral and whispered that I was only invited to the will, reading out of pure pity. She told me to stay in the back and not make a scene because Grandpa didn't want to hurt my feelings. But we all knew I wasn't really inheritance material. See, my siblings were the high achievers, the ones with the Ivy League degrees and the corporate titles, while I was just the one who spent every single weekend at his dusty farm, fixing broken fences and listening to his repetitive war stories. To my mother, that made me his unpaid handyman, not an heir to the family fortune. The air in the lawyer's office was freezing when we finally sat down at that massive mahogany table. My mom and her brothers were already whispering about how they'd split the estate, eyeing the antique paintings and the real estate portfolio, like vultures waiting for a feast. They barely even acknowledged my presence, relegated to a folding chair in the corner, while they took the velvet seats. The executor, a man who looked like he hadn't cracked a smile since the mid-80s, cleared his throat and began to read the final wishes of a man who had built an empire from nothing. He went through the minor items first, the vintage cars, the jewelry, the sentimental trinkets. And my mom was sitting there smirking, clearly thinking she was about to hit the ultimate jackpot once he reached the main assets. Then the room went absolutely dead silent. The executor adjusted his glasses and read, "To my daughter, I leave the sum of exactly $1 and the firm advice to finally learn the value of a person's heart over their bank account." My mum's face turned a shade of sickly grey I didn't even know was humanly possible. But the lawyer wasn't finished. He turned his gaze directly toward me and read that I was inheriting the entire ranch, the primary commercial properties in the city center, and a private trust fund that would make most people's heads spin. He added a personal note from my grandfather that cut through the room like a knife to the only member of this family who actually showed up when I had nothing to give but my time and my stories. The chaos that followed was instantaneous. My family started screaming about undue influence and legal manipulation. But the paperwork was ironclad. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. He saw who was there for the legacy and who was truly there for the man behind it. If you've ever felt like the misunderstood black sheep of your family, just remember that the people who actually matter are always watching your character, not your status. If this story hit home for you, hit that follow button and tell me in the comments. Would you have stayed by his side if you knew you'd get absolutely nothing?